Hey, sub Furies. Whew, okay. I'm just putting the final touches on the video where we finally discuss just how Amon took bending away, but today it's time for a battle between the most deadly butterfly of all time, the DEATHSONG, and the dragon with T-Rex arms, the THUNDERDRUM. No, seriously, look at how tiny its arms are. Remember our one rule, you vote for the dragon that you think would win. You ready? Damn right you're ready. Let's get started. Of course, before we get into it, you're going to want to know who won our last episode of the Dragon Tournament between the Night Terrors and the Terrible Terrors. Well, something went a little wrong with the voting, I don't quite know what, but with over 350 votes, undoubtedly the winner was the Terrible Terrors. They took it out in a landslide. And so it was, and now it is. The DEATHSONG versus THUNDERDRUM. Let it begin! Now, unlike other battles in the Dragon Tournament, we have actually seen the DEATHSONG and the THUNDERDRUM go up against one another before, in imperfect harmony in Race to the Edge. Only by trapping it in underground caves could Hiccup and Toothless escape it. But let's set the scene. It's years later, and that DEATHSONG is long broken out of its caves. And that THUNDERDRUM, well, it hasn't forgotten its old foe all those years ago. It holds a grudge. The THUNDERDRUM is weary of its old opponent, and it returns to the island to face it once more, to finish off what it didn't all those years ago. Of course, it's grown up. It's no longer the size that we saw it in Race to the Edge. It's far more like the ones, but not quite as large as the ones that we saw at the start of How to Train Your Dragon 2. Behemoths of the waters. But why these dragons? What makes them so interesting? Fundamentally, the DEATHSONG relies on its call, which is like a siren. It draws dragons in with a false sense of security, lulling them to it. And then BAM! Dragon kebabs. But what about the THUNDERDRUM? Well, the THUNDERDRUM releases these huge sonic booms. Booms. Waves of sound at its enemy, which are so loud that the THUNDERDRUM is nearly entirely deaf, and thereby, completely by accident, immune to the DEATHSONG's call. It can't be drawn in and mesmerized by it like other dragons can. But the THUNDERDRUM isn't just one of the few dragons that can take the DEATHSONG on, it's its natural enemy. Now, the DEATHSONG has never relied on its stealth for obvious reasons. And given how predatory it is, like look at that freaking mountain of bones, it has always relied on its ability to draw dragons to it with its appropriately named DEATHSONG. It easily draws them to it and then immobilizes it and then prepares them for dragon kebabs. I mean, it has a stealth of 0 for a reason. Now, the THUNDERDRUM is no sneaky assassin, especially given its size, but it's better than Miss Pretty Butterfly. The DEATHSONG must be so used to dragons coming to it, enchanted by its call, that it's really not prepared for a dragon that is immune to its call and out for its blood. It'll be entirely unprepared for the attack. Because of this, I award the THUNDERDRUM the advantage of a surprise attack. Now, a THUNDERDRUM's blast is capable of killing someone at close range, but that applies mostly to humans, and so it probably wouldn't kill the DEATHSONG. It would just disorient it and confuse it and leave it disabled, but definitely not defeated. Now, the THUNDERDRUM might only have a registered attack of 12, but these stats aren't entirely accurate. They're based on younger THUNDERDRUMs that we see depicted in Race to the Edge, and not the larger, more powerful THUNDERDRUMs that we probably saw in How to Train Your Dragon 2. At this size and age, our THUNDERDRUM will likely have an attack closer to 16, more like the DEATHSONG. The DEATHSONG would try and spin around on the offense, but that initial attack would really put it at a disadvantage. It'd be firing its amber shots at its opponent, a hot substance that hardens the moment that it hits its opponent, sealing them up just like we saw in the series with humans and dragons alike. Now, the DEATHSONG's call usually means that it catches dragons at unawares, but the THUNDERDRUM is immune to that, so it won't be caught nearly as easily. And on top of that, being disoriented and confused from the THUNDERDRUM's initial sonic blast, it probably wouldn't be able to aim very well or see very well, and arguably it'll just be wasting its amber shots, which is just what the THUNDERDRUM wants. Now, as the DEATHSONG began to come around from that initial THUNDERDRUM blast, the THUNDERDRUM would probably turn to fly away at the sight of that incredible incredibly aggressive dragon. And I mean it, like the Death Song has anger issues, and it would turn into a chase. Now, though the Thunderdrum only has a registered speed of 12 as opposed to the Death Song's 16, we did see in Imperfect Harmony, the episode, that the Thunderdrum does actually have the ability to evade the Death Song for an extended period of time. It's possible that it can take sharper turns and things like that. But as it flew away, it would need to dodge the Death Song's many amber bullets. Could it do this? I don't know. With a firepower of 13, one shot to the Thunderdrum's wing would probably be enough to bring it down. And though the Death Song has a shot limit of 6, we did see that this shot limit tends to recharge pretty damn quickly. And we've seen that the Death Song is accurate enough to bring grown dragons down from mid-air before. And on top of that, it can also shoot far further than the Thunderdrum, some 20 meters accurately. Or 60 feet or so for you heathens. And though you're heathens, you know I love you. This is opposed to the Thunderdrum's blast, which dissipates the further away you are and really relies on being pretty close range. Because of this, I award the Death Song the undeniable advantage of long-ranged attacks. But the Thunderdrum has one distinct advantage. It is smarter, and it knows that it can't avoid the generally faster Death Song forever. Now, we saw with Bing, Bam, and Boom that they know how to annoy their enemies. The Thunderdrum will probably aggravate the Death Song and draw it out into an environment where it has the advantage. The ocean. We saw in Riders of Berk that they are not only perfectly capable of swimming, but they tend to disappear underwater when they truly feel threatened. It would likely do the same here, and underwater, the Death Song's amber shots couldn't affect it. They would harden as soon as they hit the water's surface. The Thunderdrum knows how to use its environment to better defend itself, and it's because of this level of intelligence that I have to award the Thunderdrum the advantage of superior strategy. But the Death Song is aggressive, keen-eyed, and will be able to wait until that precious moment when the Thunderdrum needs to come up for air. It won't know where from, but as soon as it blasts out of the water, the Thunderdrum will be in real trouble if it gets stuck in the Death Song's clutches. The Thunderdrum only has an attack of 12 to the Death Song's 16, with a huge impractical mouth and tiny arms that are useless for fighting, while the Death Song is a natural predator with a jaw strength of 10 and talons designed for clawing at enemies. It would be a death wish, get it? Because Death Song, for the Thunderdrum to get caught at close range. Because of this, I have to award the Death Song the advantage of close range combat. Now, if the Thunderdrum manages to avoid the Death Song's initial clutches, then, well, we'll know what it'll probably do. In its first episode, it twice flew up into the sun in an attempt to blind any opponent that tries to follow it, a tactic used by birds of prey, then spinning around at its opponent and charging at it with a sonic blast. The Death Song is aggressive and it would pursue it without question, so this attack would almost definitely work. Its sonic boom can go on for 10 or more seconds, and given that we saw it has the ability to not only kill people but break things like metal, it would probably not be surprising if it has the ability to shatter bones inside another dragon's skeleton. That would be freaking devastating. Unable to look up at the sun, blinded and hit by this full frontal sonic blast, the Death Song would fall out of the sky, temporarily disabled, disoriented and confused, and completely at the Thunderdrum's mercy. This is a really uncommon move and almost impossible to anticipate or defend against for the Death Song, and it's because of that I have to award the Thunderdrum the wild card advantage. Now, as the two continue to fight, the battle may turn on whether or not the Death Song can actually get behind the Thunderdrum. Inside of its head, the Thunderdrum's eyesight is relatively narrow, making it pretty vulnerable if the Death Song can maneuver to get around behind it. This is opposed to the Death Song's eyes, which placed at the side give it far broader vision. Something unique about the Thunderdrum is that it has the ability to fly at really high altitudes as well as really low altitudes, and of course, in the water. But at adult size, it's best suited to fighting in the water and not maneuvering about in midair. And on top of this, the Death Song is far more aerodynamically shaped. Because of this, I award the Death Song the advantage in aerial combat. On the ground, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, the Thunderdrum is more sausagey and doesn't have very good hands to lash out, but you know, neither does the DEATHSONG. But of course the most important question remains, who do you think would win in Sub-Furies? The DEATHSONG takes away long-range attacks, close-range attacks and aerial combat, while the THUNDERDRUM takes away the surprise attack and advantage through intelligence and strategy, as well as the wild card advantage. Broadly speaking, I think the THUNDERDRUM has the ability to use its environment better, while the DEATHSONG relies more on brute force. Remember our one rule, you vote for the dragon you think would win. Like the comment of the dragon that you think would win the battle down in the comments below, and feel free to tell me about reasons you think that that particular dragon would win. But that's all from me. My question to you is, which dragon would you really like to see in the upcoming series of Race to the Edge? In the meantime, there are links in the description to my Twitter, Wattpad, email, Facebook, and address if you want to send me stuff. I love to hear from all of you Sub-Furies and what you've made and so on. It's really cool. Stay nerdy, Sub-Furies, and I'll see you in the future.